Hey guys, this is Ryan Stacy of the Castaway Consultants. You're about to listen to the 5th episode of our Survivor Rewind series where we're talking about the Africa pre-merge. Real quick before we get into this, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. We recorded this podcast over the summer of 2019, and obviously we're releasing it in January of 2020. There's been changes in the Survivor community that none of us could have predicted. What I'm talking about in particular is the arrest and charges against one of the contestants from the season, Silas, who was charged with rape. Obviously, when we recorded this, we didn't know about this because this was over the summer, so we don't bring it up. But I just wanted you guys to know about that. At a time, we are aware it was just recorded over the summer, so there's nothing we can really do about that. But apart from that, I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and here we go. Welcome to Castaway Consultants, where we tell you how to win Survivor and what seasons you should watch. I'm one of your 3 less than impressive hosts, Ryan Stacy, and I am a massive superfan of Survivor. I've seen every season at least twice.
And I am another one of the 3 hosts, Josh Wessler. I am basically a superfan, unless you really strict on the term superfan. I have not seen every single season, but I would say like 75%. I don't know what the exact percentage is. I did recently finished season 19, so if you want the exact number, I've seen seasons 1 through 19 and then 27 through 38. I forgot how many seasons there were. So yeah, I'm a good perspective for seeing how memorable these seasons are when we're going through them.
Because you're not rewatching them with us. You're watching the premiere, you're watching the merge episode, you're watching the finale.
Correct. Just kind of 3 big episodes in each season, and then talking about however I remember it, because these first seasons especially were 5-6 years ago from the first time that I actually watched it for the first time.
I am Derek Kubicek, the 3rd host from the Castaway Consultants, and many of these seasons, especially on this Rewind series that we're doing, I have not seen, and aside from a spoiler here or there, I really don't know much of what's going on or what's going to happen. So my perspective is the perspective of a new person. Predictions from me are particularly enjoyable because, again, I know something here or there, but in general, I don't know what happens. With this pre-merge with Africa here, I did not know a single person. I don't know a single result. I can't tell you anything
This is
about
like a
this.
brand new season for you, basically.
This is like a new season of Survivor, which after season 38 was welcome. Very welcome. But getting back to what I've seen, I started with season 27 and have been pretty religious ever since. And now I'm going back because, if you want to be considered a superfan, you got to see it all. I'm not on Ryan's level, but very few people are.
It's true.
But I need to make sure that I've got my Survivor lore down, so here we go.
Yep, so like Derek said, we're watching the pre-merge of Survivor Africa today, the first 6 episodes. So we will not be talking about anything that happens post-merge. Derek doesn't know anything that happens post-merge. So no spoilers here. We won't be talking about who wins. We're just going to be talking about who makes it into the merge. That's as far as we'll go spoiler-wise. We're just going to be talking about everything that happens in the season, all the main stuff. Decisions, what should have been done, what was the right move, what was the wrong move, and fun moments along the way. But the first question we have to ask, because the point of this podcast is we're watching Survivor so you don't have to. We know you're a busy person, or people, and you don't have time to go back and watch every season of Survivor. We'd like you to, because you should, but if you can't, you need to kind of pick and choose. So the question we're asking ourselves, is this must-watch Survivor? So, gentlemen, pre-merge of Survivor Africa, is this must-watch Survivor?
Watching the first episode and just kind of reading a little bit about episode recaps along the way, I would probably say no if it wasn't for the location.
Okay.
I think it's a unique enough location, much different than anything that you see basically now. We're in Africa. There are a lot of elements to take into account during the season, but I realized pretty quickly that I don't remember a lot from the season, especially cast members.
Yeah, so for me, I'll agree with that. I've never seen this season before, but, if you are someone who's really into the survival aspect and the location aspect, maybe you want to go back and watch all of these because you're curious. So in that vein, I'd say yes, but this is not must-watch Survivor. There are some really cool cast members. I'm enjoying my time watching it, but if you're a busy person, pre-merge Africa, sometimes it just gets to be a bit bland, bit boring, so I would say no on this.
I'm going to disagree. I do think this is must-watch Survivor for one really specific... Actually, there's 2 main reasons. One, we have a tribe that shows us basically how not to play Survivor 101. What not to do. And the other reason is we get our first Survivor twist. And I think this is so instrumental to Survivor, modern Survivor, is how you survive this particular twist. This is the first time we see it. And again, most of what we see is what not to do. But I do think this is some foundation level Survivor. And I do think it's must watch.
Yeah, and I did kind of forget about the twist in the pre-merge here. If I'm going to say basically what I said in both of our first two recap seasons, as a whole, not great Survivor, other than it's great foundation. And it's cool to see what it used to be like. Mm-hmm. So to kind of toss that reasoning in here with the twist and how people react and, like you're saying, what not to do, I can see the reasoning why you should watch it.
I can't believe you, Ryan, by the way. I can't believe you're calling this must-watch Survivor when you said the second half of Season 2 was not.
This is better than the second half of Season 2.
I think just because of how unique it is. With the twist.
That season has Tina and it has the flash flood.
That season is boring, or that part of the season is pretty boring besides 2 episodes. This is not boring. This is how not to play Survivor. That's what the pre-merge Survivor Africa is, particularly with one tribe. A lot of learning and building experiences, not just knowing what to do, but what not to do. I think that's extremely valuable, is learning what not to do. And there's no better way to learn that than watching this particular tribe from Survivor Africa. I guess it's 2-1 on Must Watch Survivor, but we have a split here.
Yeah.
Let's quickly play a little game where Josh is going to see how many of the players he can remember. So Derek, we recorded this a couple of weeks ago before we watched the premiere, just to see how many Josh could remember. So let's go ahead and take a little listen. Hey Josh, how's it going?
It's going good.
We're going to do our little game that we play and see how many of the cast members you can remember. Mm-hmm. And this will be for Survivor Africa Season 3. Mm-hmm. So let's get started. Josh, you get 16 cast members. How many can you remember from Season 3?
And we're done.
You can't remember anybody.
No, I do. I know one.
Okay.
It's Ethan.
Okay. Remember Ethan.
And that's okay. I'm gonna think here. I'm gonna try to think really hard, but I don't think I'm gonna get anything. I'm gonna do a lot better once I see the actual pictures of people. I can't think of anyone.
Okay, so we're going to move on to, we're going to show Josh some photos and see how many more people he can remember. Okay, you got Ethan.
Yep.
How about this guy?
He looks a little familiar, but I have absolutely no idea what his name is or if he's done anything.
That's Clarence. He was the one who was stealing food.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how about her?
I don't remember her.
Yeah, not a great photo. That is Diane. She's the first boot. She got sick in the very first episode.
Yep, wouldn't remember.
Okay, how about her?
She looks familiar. I don't remember her name, though.
It's Jessie. She also got sick.
Okay. Yep, don't remember. I don't even recognize the name. Man, these are some high-quality pictures.
Yes.
Good old 2001. I got nothing.
That's Kelly. She was the one who had the feud with Lex.
Okay.
Which I just gave you one.
I would probably recognize Lex right away. Lex.
Yeah. Covered in tattoos.
You know what? I don't know if I would have remembered his name, but I definitely remember his face.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I figured you would. Okay. So that's 2 you got.
To be fair, I did not remember that this was Lex's season. I remember him as a player. Couldn't remember that it was this one, but now remembering what goes down later on. Yep.
Her?
No, nothing.
That's Kim Johnson. All right, last one for the Boron tribe.
Yep, I remember him. God, what is his name? He has a really thick accent.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it's a really hick name, too.
Okay. Do you remember anything he does in the season?
Doesn't he get mad at someone?
Yep.
Well, I mean, everyone gets mad in general, but, like, he
Clarence.
gets really mad at someone.
At Clarence, yep.
That's all I got, though, for him.
I'll give it to you. You remember that. It's Big Tom.
Big Tom, yep. I wanted to say Billy Bob or something, but I knew that wasn't right. Big Tom.
All right, so now we have the Samburu tribe.
Ooh, I remember that name.
All right, so we'll start with this guy.
He looks familiar, but I don't know anything about him.
It's Brandon. This is
This
is the tribe that was like divided old and young, and they battled heads a lot.
Is Brandon gay?
Yep.
Okay, I thought so.
But this guy,
I don't recognize him.
Dr. Carl. He's a dentist.
Nope.
He
got
loses
nothing.
the nature tiebreaker challenge.
Ah, okay.
But this guy, please tell me you remember him.
He definitely looks familiar. You're gonna hate me. I don't remember what it was from, but his face is definitely sticking out to me.
That's Frank. He's the super conservative military guy.
Okay.
And he and Brandon won a reward together, and it's super awesome.
I do remember that. Not doing well.
No, you're not.
This is terrible. No, I got nothing.
It's Kim Powers. She's not super memorable.
I recognize the name, though. Oh, wait, maybe that's Shane Powers.
Yeah, that's a different person.
I don't think I remember her.
Don't blame me. That's Linda. She's the one who thought Mother Africa.
Oh,
Mother Africa.
I do remember that. Again, I got nothing.
Lindsay, she was the huge diva.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that guy.
This is a bunch of just generic white people. No.
That's Silas. He was kind of the one trying to play the middle, but he was the one who got screwed in the tribe swap.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this was the first season with... Yeah, that's right.
And then finally...
She looks familiar. Her face definitely looks familiar, but I have no idea what she did or her name.
Teresa. So you got 3 out of 16.
Well, I think the reason why this one was a tough one is I really binged this season, and when I binged them, I do not remember people's names.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whatsoever.
Well, okay, let's get back to Survivor Africa. And we're back. So Josh got 3 out of 16.
And 2 out of those 3 were after I looked at people's
Yeah,
pictures.
you only remembered 1, but from name alone. Good job.
It did not go well.
You disappoint me, Josh.
And now, even after the fact, and after watching, so the only episode I've watched so far is the episode 1, I still only remember like 7 people's names.
Yeah, that's the premiere, though. We didn't get a lot of the characters.
I know, but it should at least jog my memory. I still don't think there's a lot of memorable people other than some key ones.
So let's go over this cast real quick.
And by the way, from here on out, we are spoiling everything.
Yep.
So if for some reason...
Pre-merge.
We're spoiling everything pre-merge. So if for
Yep.
some reason you want to go and watch this yourselves, even after 2 of us said not to, absolutely shut it off here. Otherwise, go forth under your own risk.
You've been warned. All right, so let's start with the Baran tribe, which is my favorite of the 2. Definitely the tribe I prefer. Baran tribe they each have 8 people. We have Diane Ogden, a mail carrier from Nebraska. Jesse Camacho, a sheriff from Orlando, Florida. Kelly, a behavioral analyst from San Diego, California. Kim Johnson, there's 2 Kims this season. Kim Johnson, Kim J. She's a retired teacher from New York. Ethan, a soccer player from New York City. Big Tom. He's a goat farmer from Virginia.
Big time.
Clarence, a basketball coach from Detroit. And Lex, a marketing manager from Santa Cruz, California. Covered in tattoos, this guy. All right, and then we have the Samburu tribe, otherwise known as Sambuhu.
Boo.
So we have Dr. Carl, a dentist from Florida. Linda, a career counselor from Boston. Silas, a bartender from Los Angeles. Lindsay, an advertising executive from Portland. Teresa, a flight attendant from Georgia. Brandon, a bartender from Dallas, Texas. Kim Powers, or Second Kim, a freelance marketer from Pennsylvania. And finally, Frank Garrison, a telephone technician from upstate New York. That's our 16. Okay, anything else before we get into this?
Now let's go.
All right, so our Season 3 premiere, Episode 1, Question of Trust. We start with the classic marooning, except this time it's in the middle of the desert, so they just get kicked off a truck. And the first thing that happens on the Baran tribe is we get the classic goof of Diane taking the map and doing a poor job of navigating to the camp. We're now 2 for 2 on this. Don't take the map and do a bad job, because people will not like that.
And we'd probably be 3 for 3 if it wasn't for season 1 just going straight to the beach.
Yep, just rowing, and it's hard to get lost rowing.
If you're playing, don't take the compass.
Don't take the map, don't take the compass, let somebody else do it.
But if you're in Fiji, you probably don't have a problem.
Yeah. And see, this would be tough for me, because I love navigating, and I would really want to do this, but I would restrain myself. You gotta be able to sacrifice your wants to win Survivor.
It's $1 million, people.
And so on the trek, on the Samburu tribe, we immediately get some conflict. And Samburu is going to be notorious for having a conflict between the young and the old. And it kind of starts off the bat right away with Lindsay, Kim P, and Kim Powers and Brandon all kind of being slow and talking a little bit too much. And this annoys both Frank and Linda right away. They're just like, hey, let's move. Let's get stuff done. This isn't social hour. And this is bad on everybody's part. Because if you're taking too long and annoying people on your tribe, well, you're annoying people on your tribe. And if you're being too, like, military, like let's do this, let's move, let's go, and that annoys people too. So you can't do either of these things.
The one benefit to being on a tribe like this is it would be really easy to play the middle if you just kept a level head.
Right.
Because you'd be able to swing between the two and be a go-between. But like you said, this is an unstoppable force meets a movable object, and you're just going to end up with tons of friction.
Which is the Samburu tribe in a nutshell.
Hilariously enough, though, they will end up getting fire from the friction.
Yep.
Boo.
Boom. Yeah, no, this is actually pretty ingenious. They have a telescope in their supplies. And this is actually really insane. Like, they have, like, a partial shelter already built when they get to their camp, and they have, like, a partial fence already built around their place to keep predators, like lions, out. Instead of having to build a whole shelter, they just have to fix it up. So they gave them something to work with to start with, because this would be really hard to build a shelter in this location.
Especially, like, what they're looking for, like, to be required to protect yourself from predators.
Yeah, otherwise everybody would get eaten.
I feel like it's still not great measures.
Yeah, I bet you some of the crew might have had guns or something.
There had to have
been. But
Suspend your disbelief, boys. They left him out there to die.
probably. They're still out there.
I
to this
hope
day.
so.
Now, Kim P uses this, because everybody's having trouble getting fired, but Kim P takes out was it telescope?
Yeah, it takes out one of the lenses from like a spyglass that they have, and then uses it to light some shrub or some brush on fire.
She gives it to Silas, and Silas lights it on fire.
Sure, but
Important.
either way, it's an awesome moment for those two. It's really fun TV because I love episode 1 when they're getting fire. That's really cool for me because everyone's super pumped about it. But great moment for Kim because she was able to figure it out, and great moment for Silas because he was able to pull it off.
Proven their use.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, that's good.
It would have been better for Kim to just do it on her own.
Yeah.
But,
Silas is going to get more of the credit for this. But
yeah.
on Boran, we have Jessie, who is sick. She's already gotten sick. And this is just like what happened last season with Jeff Varner getting sick. You got to hide it, and Jessie does a very poor job of hiding it here.
And it's one of those things, this is my biggest fear if I were to ever play Survivor, getting sick on day 1, because if your body is adapting to a new climate, a new elevation, new time zone, sometimes your body just decides, I'm going to shut down for a while. I need to hit the reset button. Yep. My biggest fear would be this. So,
yeah, because it happened to you in Mexico, kind of.
It happened to me in Mexico, kind of. And, that wasn't even changing time zones. Just went down to the equator and got really sick. So
You could be the best Survivor player out there and just get uncontrollably sick, nothing that you can do, and just get voted out first boot and just gone.
There's a lot of luck in Survivor. I think it's the person who can adapt to good and bad luck the best. But sometimes there's so much bad luck you can't do anything about it. You get sick, but you gotta at least pretend you're not. Varner did a decent job of this last season, but Jessie does a piss poor job here.
Yeah.
Granted, Varner had more water.
Varner had places to hide. There's nowhere to hide here.
And that's actually another one of the really interesting things about this season. I mean, the first 2, they've had either wells or running water really close to them. This one, they had to go to this almost bog, wetland, and fill up the water, and then you had to boil it for 5 minutes to make sure that it doesn't make you sick.
It's nasty water, too.
And it tastes awful, apparently, by all accounts.
Water.
This is a 100% the worst water situation they've had on any season. Brutal. We have a little prelude to the meat of this episode, where we have Clarence stealing a couple of extra cherries. The Boran tribe decides to open some cherries, and they eat some, and Clarence has more than his fair share. And we only get that from Ethan. Ethan seems to be the only one who notices it, but it sets up a little bit more that Clarence likes his food.
And by more than his fair share, he means 2 instead of 1. It's not like he took like a handful of them versus everyone just taking 1. It was just take 1 more. But that 1 cherry is enough.
Don't screw with the food. And this is going to kind of set up that Ethan does not like Clarence very much. And this doesn't go away for the whole pre-merge. Ethan does not like Clarence very much.
Multiple people don't.
So we get a brutal immunity challenge. Absolutely horrifically brutal.
Any energy that you still had is gone.
Samburu wins, and on Boran, Diane collapses because she's so exhausted.
Yeah, this is definitely heat related, by the way. They haven't had water, like I had just talked about, and she just collapses.
Yeah.
So they get back to camp, and everybody else decides, okay, we need to go do a water run. We need to try and stock back up, but we're not just going to leave Diane here.
Diane needs to rest.
Yeah, she needs to rest. So Clarence volunteers to stay behind. So far, this is a good plan. But the Boran tribe comes back, X amount of time later, and they find out that Clarence had cracked open a can of beans and given some to Diane and then ate the other half himself. And this is a horrible look. I mean, if anything, give the sick person half a can of beans and you don't touch the rest.
Yep.
I mean, wait for everyone to come back and everyone gets a spoonful. You messed up here, man. This is not good.
This is terrible. Don't mess with the food. Never mess with the food. This kind of causes some fireworks, especially from Tom and to a lesser extent Ethan and Lex. They're pissed. They're like, yo, if this was in the army, you'd get shot for that.
Which was a bit far.
Yeah.
Not sure if you actually would be, but
Don't know about that. I mean, definitely in some armies.
And I think that was Ethan who said that too.
Ethan said that.
And it was like, he was one of the quieter ones out of the three, and then all of a sudden he's like, you'll get shot for that. I'm like, oh.
Who are you?
Way to jump right into that one there, bud.
Yeah. Tom is pissed and like verbally annihilates Clarence in a way only Tom can. Lex is pissed too. Yeah, it's not good. But for context, Clarence is huge. This guy is jacked. This guy is ripped. It's toss-up between him and Silas, but which is like the more athletic guy. It's one of those two.
And I would make an argument that it's definitely Clarence who has more muscle mass and probably athleticism too. But either way, you know, if you go onto the island and you are hulking upon hulking, your body's going to break down quicker and you're going to feel it.
Too bad.
I'm saying you need to do some prep work. I mean,
you don't want to be ripped. You want to be pudgy going out there.
Tony Vlachos, he's the prime example because afterwards he said that he gained 20 pounds for his journey and he allowed some of his muscle to dissipate before he left.
You don't want to be muscle out there. You want to be fat. You want fat to reserve. So you don't want to go out there with a six-pack. You want to go out there with a keg.
Yeah, like 25 extra pounds over your normal weight, and you don't want to have been working out on your way out there.
Yeah.
That is the ideal survivor body type.
Like, you don't want to go out there to look good on the island. You want to go out there to win.
You might not be placed on the beauty tribe.
Yes, but, you know.
But you won't feel as hungry.
Yes. You'll have a better time. So, yeah, this is terrible on Clarence, and honestly not great on Tom, Ethan, and Lex. It's better because it's not just one person ganging up on Clarence, but still...
They're lucky that it was not just one person.
Yeah.
Like, if either one of those three guys was the only person to just get in a shouting match here, that's a really bad look.
Yeah.
Well,
the more people who get in on this, the better, but this could alienate Clarence.
The way that I saw it, Tom was mad. Ethan was already frustrated, and I think Lex was stoking the fire a little bit here, because we'll find out that Lex, he likes to play the center on these things quite a bit. The girls were also upset. They were just talking less about it because the men on this tribe seemed to be very domineering.
Yeah.
And that is what it is, but it seemed like the tribe kind of rallied around this sin. I think that it was honestly played up for that reason. They used it as a reason to bond, a reason to cast somebody out.
For sure, and that is, in my opinion, the best way to bond a group of people is to find a common enemy. That's exactly what I do if I was on Survivor, but I wouldn't do it to that person's face. I would talk to everybody else behind Clarence's back. Mm-hmm. Like, man, doesn't Clarence suck?
This is season 3. They haven't figured out subtlety yet.
Yes.
They're yelling directly at each other.
Let's get mad.
So Brian goes to Tribal Council, and it ends up being 6 votes for Diane, 2 votes for Clarence. Because Diane kind of throws Clarence under the bus. She's like, I didn't ask him to open any beans.
Which I don't believe, by
either.
the way.
No, she knew that she was in trouble. It's just like, yeah, go for him, yeah.
So Diane and Tom both throw votes on Clarence, and we're going to find out in the next episode that this was like, yeah, let's just put one on Clarence just to teach him a lesson.
So he has votes for what we know as the tiebreaker.
Yeah, it was just like, well, teach him a lesson, let him know this isn't okay, the rest of us vote for Diane, Tom, you vote for Clarence. So this was all part of the plan. It wasn't like Tom went rogue or anything. This is 100% the right move, right? You gotta get rid of Diane here. She's sick as hell.
And she didn't perform great at the challenge. She was fine, but if you have to get one of the 2 centers on your tribe, you get rid of the weaker one.
Yeah, she also stole food, too. 2 people stole food. One's better at challenges than the other. This is easy.
Yeah, Clarence is going to keep feeling good enough, basically, for a couple of more episodes. And then he's probably going to start, like, deteriorating just because of his muscle mass that we talked about.
But use him for now.
Yep.
So best player of the episode, what do you guys think?
I've given it a lot of thought. I had originally written down Kim because she discovered...
Kim Powers,
Kim P, the one who discovered the lens in the spyglass to create fire. But you kind of talked me off that one a little bit and made it Silas. You win immunity, you got fire on your own, you got the credit for starting the fire. I do think that Silas has the best episode here.
I 100% agree. And the other thing with Silas is Kim P annoyed both Frank and Linda during the episode where Silas didn't annoy anybody that we saw. So I think Silas is the better social game in this episode. So that's another factor for me.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would want to say Kim P, but those are good enough reasons to make me just say that she's a close runner-up.
Sure. Worst player's Clarence.
There's no question.
Shocker.
You steal food and you don't go home. Surprise, surprise, you're the worst. So that's episode 1. Now is the fun part where Derek gets to make a blind prediction.
Yeah, so before we do this, we're going to do winner picks. Derek is going to obviously pick a winner pick because he had no idea. Josh and I are going to pick based off of what we value in watching a first episode and try and be as unbiased as possible in making our picks. Fun fact is, I did not watch the season live. The first episode of Survivor I ever watched is the season 3 finale. So every season after this, I have a legitimate winner pick, and I'm just going to throw that person out there, like the person I picked at the time. So this is the last time I'm going to have to really go back and think, who would I have picked?
Yeah, and I don't really remember when I was watching it the first time because I was just binge watching these first couple of seasons. But yeah, I'm trying to put myself into a good frame of mind for who would have I picked.
I would probably have changed this after talking with Ryan, but I picked Kim P. I said the best player of the episode was the one who was going to win. Now, this isn't something that I'm always going to do or I would always do, but she seemed to have the social know-how. She's, I believe, a marketer of some kind, of freelance marketer. She had a generally friendly disposition. You had mentioned that she had maybe annoyed Frank in them a little bit, but I see strong personalities like Frank leave this game very early, so when I take that into account, making Frank mad doesn't count as a negative in my winner pick, because I don't see them lasting long.
Okay.
So, and then showing the ingenuity and the intuitiveness to figure out the lens in the spyglass. They show that to us for a reason. I'm a strong believer in editology, so Kim P was my winner pick.
Now, you mentioned that you had some second guessing because of stuff that Ryan said. What were you second guessing on?
Well, just the stuff when Ryan was talking about Silas having a better episode, because I genuinely believed when I was writing her name down that I had picked the person who had the strongest episode.
Okay.
And I had forgotten that Silas really didn't do anything wrong.
In the first episode.
In the first episode, we will add that qualifier, but for some reason, Kim just stuck out more in my mind because I always look for who's a crafty one. That's something I look for in my episode one. Who's doing something smart, who figured something out that no one else could. They show that to us for a reason. At least I believe that. Either they make it deep or they make it to the end, so that was why.
Yeah. I also went with Kim P for some of the same reasons, but a few different ones. I do take into account editology and just kind of playing the meta for that and just thinking outside of just the first episode, because I think it can be very dangerous to look at just the first episode.
Tina.
Yes.
Yep. And you can be fooled as we keep going with these seasons. I got a really positive feeling from her, like she would be someone who would think strategically. It seemed like she knew the game and was really thoughtful about the way that she played. Yes, she had some missteps on kind of like acting out against the older members, but I can look past that. Even if you're talking about someone like Silas, I think that he has more of the threat side just kind of pasted right on him as being one of the biggest people, basically, versus Kim, who isn't going to seem like a challenge threat.
Yeah, this guy looks like Colby, and everybody's going to be scared of Colby.
Like a beefed up Colby.
So people are going to be scared of this guy, so yeah, I see that. But regardless, I still went with Silas because he had such a good first episode. Yeah, I wasn't happy about this because Silas is not going to do well here. Going into this, I didn't want to pick Silas, and I was not happy that he had the best first episode, in my opinion. So, but being as unbiased as possible, I went with Silas, which is just awful. So let's go in episode 2. Who's zooming whom? Which I don't know what the heck this means, but whatever.
Me neither.
So going over Samburu, it's more young versus old. It's the 4 older people, and then the 3 younger people with Silas kind of in the middle. And Frank's group tries to recruit Silas, which is exactly the right move. Unfortunately, during the recruiting process, it's really easy to overhear people in Africa, apparently.
Well, we already talked about there's not a lot around there.
Yeah, there's not a place to hide. And Lindsay kind of overhears Frank recruiting Silas and gets like super paranoid and confronts Silas about it kind of crazily. And so Silas calms her down, kind of getting himself in the bad situation. Like, he's clearly the guy in the middle. It's not his fault because everybody is coming after him, like, to get him on their side. So this isn't Silas's fault, but he is in a bad situation. He can make this work for him. It's like you said earlier, the guy who can play the middle here could do well. Silas could do well here. He's in the best spot in the game, but also a bad spot, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It can go either way and to either extreme very easily if you don't play correctly.
Yeah, nobody trusts him. That's the problem. He's not very good at being reassuring, and nobody trusts him. He's in a great spot, but he doesn't know how to play it, I guess would be the way to say it.
It's kind of like being dealt pocket aces, but you're too dumb to see what the flop turned over.
On Baran, they lose the reward challenge because of Kim Johnson, because she's older, so she's not great at these challenges. But then we get a really fun immunity challenge where they have to do shots of blood mixed with milk. This is, it's gross because we see them drain some blood from a cow alive. And
yeah, they like shoot an arrow into its neck.
I remember this was weird. I mean, because we've had like bug eating and stuff like that, which is, whatever, that's fine. But now they've got this cow and warm blood, The
challenge itself, I think this would be the easiest of the eating challenges. I think I could do this no problem. I've drank whiskey and I hate whiskey. I could do shots. I think I could do this challenge very well. I think it'd be easier than the bug eating.
You can get over it really quickly.
Yeah, you just down it. And it doesn't really seem like anybody has too much of a problem with this, but it's just kind of gross watching the blood come out of the cow like that. I don't like it.
Well, and there's also a sound effect when they stab the neck of the cow. It's like,
And
it's
cow
like,
lives.
and then it just starts like gushing out, and they're like, "Don't worry, this doesn't actually hurt the cow." I'm like, I
don't believe you.
Yes, it might not kill the cow, but you can say that doesn't hurt it.
This is not something that they would do on Modern Survivor. I keep getting surprised about all of these things that just come out of left field.
Kimmy wouldn't like this.
Kimmy would not like this. So anyway, everybody does it fine, but then they have to do a showdown where they have to do a whole glass and without any milk. And Callie ends up losing to Linda. Yeah, Linda out of nowhere just downs it like a crazy person.
Linda is a crazy person.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Let's start there. Linda is a crazy person.
Brian's going back to Tribal Council, and we get Ethan, Lex, and Tom making an alliance. They don't really trust each other, and they're a little wary of each other, but they make an alliance. Tribal Council. Jesse's still sick. Nobody trusts Clarence, but it ends up being 5 votes for Jesse, 2 votes for Clarence, because Jesse and Big Tom, they throw their votes on Clarence.
To teach him a lesson.
So, Tom needs to let this go.
Yeah, I mean, now you have to realize that if you go into the merge tied, you're giving somebody a ton of votes who will absolutely lose a tie.
I mean, it's better that person losing the tie than you, but,
And, you got to spread the votes around. Or you know what? No. There's 2 different schools of thought here. Either you put them all on one person in hopes that the other tribe doesn't figure out who it is, or, if it's going to be, like, around, you want, like, 1 vote on each person. And this is actually going to become an issue, I think, 2 episodes from now.
Yeah. Tiebreaker thing, the previous votes thing is definitely still. This is the last season we're going to get this. So we're still going to have, if there's a tie, a deadlock tie, they don't go to rocks like they do nowadays. They go off previous votes. So this is the last season we'll have that.
And this is the 2nd episode in a row that Clarence has gotten lucky from someone being sick.
Yeah, if Jesse wasn't sick, I could have seen it being like Kim J just for being bad challenges, but Clarence definitely could have gone home because nobody trusts Clarence. But I think Jesse's the right call here. You have another person who's sick. You have Clarence who's a tank. You need him.
Same reason as the first episode.
Best player?
So I had Silas as overall the best player this episode because he won the reward, he won immunity, and he was in the power position on his tribe. Albeit not playing it the best, he was able to mend fences with the young tribe and not burn bridges with the old tribe.
Honestly, I don't remember too much from the episode, but I think you could easily give it to one of the 3 guys for making an alliance.
I'm going to say it was actually Linda, surprisingly, because she is part of the majority alliance at Samburu. That isn't going to last very long, but just for this episode, she seems to be part of the majority alliance, 5 versus 3. And she's the one who won the immunity challenge. So she saved her entire tribe by winning. So I'm going to give it to Linda.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I think you could also give it to one of the 3 guys for just making an alliance in general, because it's one of the first strategic moves that we've really seen in this season.
Worst player is Lindsay, who's extremely lazy, just like Brandon and Kim PR. She also freaks out Silas a little bit, or freaking out on Silas when she gets uber paranoid. And she should be paranoid, but the way she approaches Silas was really bad. So I think it was Lindsay.
See, and I had Frank being careless enough to allow himself to be overheard and not knowing that someone was standing 5 yards behind him. Because, I mean, they were going to figure out that Silas was being courted either way, but a first-hand account leaves no room for doubt.
Sure.
So I can see Lindsay being a strong argument here because ultimately it's 4-3 in Silas, and Frank is a part of the 4. But, I mean, information is power, and he gave it away. So I had Frank.
Yeah, I'm good with either of those, but I think Lindsay, just for the fact that people can get voted out for being paranoid.
Oh, yeah.
And if you overreact, it's not good.
Yeah, if I had been Silas, I'd been like, okay, she needs to go first. She's crazy. Also, for the record, I cannot stand Lindsay. She's my least favorite person on the season. Episode 3, The Gods Are Angry. So, during the night, Baran has lions approach their camp, and this is just horrifying. Like, I would be pooping my pants.
I definitely remember this from just watching it the first time.
So, I think it's like Kelly and Ethan or something, they're on guard duty because they have to have 2 people up at all times just to keep watch.
Which says enough as it is.
Like, what? This has never happened before or since. And eventually everybody else gets up because there's lions outside their fence. So they're all just like up like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Can't sleep. Lion will eat me.
What do? You just sit there, like, because you can't do anything. You're not going to leave. You're not going to...
They have spears. I grab a spear.
I guess I grab a spear and I just sit there just cradling the spear and just hoping for the best.
Okay, so over on Samburu, the young and the old divide continues. Lindsay and Kim P, they make some necklaces, some friendship necklaces, for Brandon and Silas and nobody else. And Silas decides he's going to go with the younger people and he's not going to pretend anymore. He's not going to play the middle, he's going with the young side. And this is horrible on everybody's part. A, don't make any identifying marks for your alliance. That's stupid. If you're going to do this, make them for everybody. We're all a big happy family. Number 2, Silas should not have picked a side here. And if he had picked a side, he picked the wrong side. Because he goes from a majority position to a tie position. This is horrendous gameplay all around.
This is awful. I mean, I think... in general, I don't think that there should be these splits. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, like, all the girls gang up together and we'll be one big alliance. Same thing with old versus young. Having these splits like this is just, you could have a different opinion, but in my opinion, I feel like that's really bad because it makes it super predictable.
I agree with both of you on this. If you, especially in these early seasons with tiebreakers, you have to at least put up a facade of a unified front on your tribe. Otherwise, it's a death wish. It was a death wish in the first 2 seasons, and it's, by all accounts up to this point, a death wish here as well. But I don't have as much of an issue as you do with them making identifying marks for their alliance, and here's why. This tribe had already torpedoed into the ground. It was so clearly 3 versus 4 plus Silas. I think that this was a strategic move by the younger people to get Silas with them to make sure they were not outnumbered. So for those 3, not Silas, it was a bad move for Silas. I agree with you there. I think for these 3 to make him feel more a part of their family and not fall out of the majority, it was a good move for them because they're either tie or home. That's why I'm okay with it,
I guess.
I mean, yeah, it's a...
I just don't think
it's a move just because it sounds like just because you're desperate, but I feel like you should start making other alliances too.
I just don't think it was a strategic move. I think it had an effect maybe to help swing Silas over, but I don't think they had thought it out that far.
And maybe they hadn't. And if I remember right, Silas was pretty fed up with Carl and Teresa and Linda and Frank. I think specifically Carl and Linda he was having issues with.
Frank a bit too.
Frank a bit
Everybody
too.
has issues with Frank.
Everyone has a little bit of an issue with Frank.
Yes. I love Frank for the record. Frank is the best.
He's great TV. I love him.
I love Frank. And speaking of Carl, he is stupid because he reveals he's rich. He's got a bunch of different cars. He's got like more than one BMW or something crazy because he's a dentist. So he's super rich. If you're super rich on Survivor, don't say you're super rich on Survivor. That's a knock against you. And Carl's gonna go home because of this.
Terrible move. One of the worst moves that you can make.
There's no good that can come from it. None.
If you guys went out there and you were wealthy, what's the play?
You have a fake job.
Fake job. Yeah, pick something you used to do. If you're gonna fake your job, you pick something that you used to.
Because you need to be able to talk about it. So like, let's say that you ended up eventually like owning your own business or something like that, or you got like a really surprising like promotion, you're an executive or whatever, you make a lot of money, go 1 or 2 jobs back and you're a marketing manager or something like that, something that earns a good amount of money but not anything like super extreme.
For example, I'm a security guard at a movie studio. That's
my go-to would be a short order chef at a bar and grill in southern Minnesota.
There you go.
See, but I don't know if you'd want to go like too far back. Like it's obviously like a first job out of like college or something like that. Maybe do like the first job in your field.
It basically just needs to be something you can talk about but won't scare people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I think a short order chef. No one's scared of short order chef.
True, and you could really like being a chef and just stay a chef.
Yeah.
So we have a reward challenge, which is actually, normally we won't talk about reward challenges, but 2 things. This is a really cool reward challenge because they're rolling giant boulders around. But the reward is for 100 gallons of water. This might be the single best reward in the history of this show.
I was so caught off guard when I remember like watching this for the first time. Just like, what? Just here's some water. Okay.
Well, and I can say with confidence this is the best reward that I've ever seen because it's so early. The water situation is the worst. And half of the survival stuff has been about the fact that they don't have water or their urns are breaking.
Or you need fire to get water.
Yeah. So to me, this is the single most advantageous reward that's ever been given. And granted, I can't speak to the other 20 seasons.
I think it is. because you don't have to expend nearly as much energy anymore.
Yeah, it was enough for
It's clean.
It's clean.
It was
you don't
enough
have to
for
boil it.
It was enough for a gallon a day, all the way up until the merge.
Like that'll give
You
your
can
tribe a
drink
huge
as much
advantage.
water as you want.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. This is the best reward I think ever given.
And also, I'm pretty sure that Lindsay gets rolled over by one of the boulders too.
Yeah, I think it was Lindsay. That was pretty funny. So, immunity challenge. It's the SOS challenge where they have to build a signal for a plane to fly over and see it. And Lindsay ends up getting dehydrated and collapsing during the challenge because she's working too hard, not drinking enough. So that's not great. But Baran ends up winning because Kim Johnson brought some acrylic paints as her luxury item. So she painted all of their mosquito nets that they were given, and they used that as part of the signal, the SOS sign, and that's what wins it.
It's kind of cheap.
Hey, I like that. This is kind of what I miss about luxury items. I wish they would have them in the game. It adds a little bit of personality to each of the characters, just like an extra little thing.
As long as it doesn't influence the game.
I mean, last time it influenced the game, Colby brought his Texas flag.
I'm not saying that was good.
I like it.
But this influenced a challenge. Like, they had something that the other team didn't.
Maybe it's not as fair, but I think it's more interesting.
They could have used mud.
Kind of.
It also helps.
I will say that I love these challenges.
I miss these.
I want these challenges back. Because I think I brought up, I don't remember if it was in our season 1 or season 2 recap, but I think I mentioned the SOS one specifically, that it's one of my favorite old school challenges because it's very straightforward and it's so unique compared to anything that they do today.
Yeah, I miss these. Maybe they'll bring it back for season 40.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
They should bring back old challenges for season 40.
Yeah, because they did that a little bit with Second Chances season in Cambodia. They brought back the old storytelling challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Which, they hadn't done in years. And they brought that one back, which is really cool. But yeah, I'd like them to bring back challenges like this. These are fun. So Baran wins for the first time, sending Samburu to Tribal Council. And we have our young versus old split. Ends up being 4 votes for Carl, 4 votes for Lindsay. So before we get into the dynamics of all this, did each side pick the right person? Because this is their first time going to Tribal Council. Previous votes are not a factor. Who do you pick if it's 4v4? So on the young, we have Lindsay, Kim Powers, Silas, and Brandon. And they all vote for Carl because he's rich and doesn't need the money. The 4 old people, Frank, Linda, Teresa, and Carl, they all vote for Lindsay because she sucks and she collapsed in the challenge. So I think the Lindsay pick is fair because she seems to be physically the weakest.
Makes sense.
But what about the Carl vote? Because Carl seems like he's a fairly strong guy. Probably out of the 4 older people, he's probably second to Frank.
There must be something here that we're not seeing.
It's
in
the
terms
money,
of
it's
the
money thing.
It's the money thing.
It's the money, but it's also, I think he was the most vocal protester or the loudest vocal opposition to their camp lifestyle.
That could be the case.
And if he's bringing disharmony to your group and you're the younger tribe, first of all, it's already bad enough that you've got a 4-4 split going on here because now you've got 4 votes going on to one person at one tribal, no matter what. Bad situation for everyone, but Carl's a fine pick. I mean, it's either Carl or it's going to be Linda for being not as strong in challenges.
I think it should have been Linda.
Yeah.
I think you could have gone with Linda. And I guess my reasoning is because you have this information about Carl that you can use at another point in the game when you already know that you're going to be going in split 4-4, assuming that no one's gonna swap. So maybe you can use this information later on to be like, hey, guys, this guy has a lot of money. Let's go vote for him.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Keeping in mind that
Thank you.
keeping in mind that Linda's also crazy and they won't let her get to the end either. But you're absolutely right. If you have ammo on someone, put it on the ammo belt and keep them around a while.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Keep it on the ammo belt.
It's good thinking, Josh.
Thanks.
So we end up with a tie and deadlock tie. So nowadays, Modern Survivor, this would be a rock draw, and I honestly think if that had been the case, we would have got a rock draw here. I don't think any of these people would have flipped.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah, especially this early in the game. Guys, pro tip, never go to rocks.
I was just going to ask you, do you ever go to rocks?
If you're the target, convince everybody else to go to rocks. If you're not the target, you flip. It is too early in the game for rocks.
I guess so. We could take like Silas.
Yeah,
Because he would be the guy that would flip in this situation. If he flips and it goes to Lindsay, who cares, Silas?
Yeah, let her go. You've known these people for 9 days.
Yeah.
Let her go. Yeah, nowadays, if post-merge, it's a different ballpark. Pre-merge, there's never a good reason to go to rocks unless you're the person going home. Then convince everybody to go to rocks. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody else.
So instead of rocks, we have a nature quiz. This is the only time we ever get this in Survivor.
The weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, because they have these books that they were given that basically teaches them how to survive out in Africa, and they were like, let's quiz you to see what you know.
Stay in the game.
And they basically say the first one to miss a question that the other one gets, you're out.
Yep.
And I think they both get the first one right, and they both get like the next two wrong. And then Lindsay throws out a true, and Carl throws out a false.
This is actually kind of interesting because the question is, will hot water get rid of a tick if it's attached to you? Lindsay answers true. Later in the season, Lindsay's going to get a tick attached to her, and they get it off with boiling water. It's great.
I mean, just being asked that question, I feel like it would be true.
Yeah, I thought everybody would know that. Apparently, they don't have ticks in Florida.
I mean, even if it's not common knowledge, if you're just picturing it, putting cold water, or like putting like just normal lukewarm water versus hot water, I feel like hot water would do a better job.
That seems like a super easy question.
Yeah, the tick is just like, ow, time to go.
Yeah. So Carl loses and goes home on this question. Rip.
I completely forgot that this quiz happened, but
I'm glad they changed it. This quiz isn't very good.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes right along with the whole tiebreaker of previous votes. I'm glad that it's gone.
Yeah, I like rock draw. I like rock draw a lot. It adds this really crazy, like, will you flip or will you go to rocks for this person?
And you're right, the rock draws were
decision.
great. So I think ultimately it was the right move to go away from this, but I did like the previous vote. It added an extra layer to the game that I liked. So I was
but it was too easy to have bad situations come up.
And then the nature quiz, it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. So Lindsay ends up winning, and Carl goes home. So best player?
So best player for me, I don't actually have one. So you go first.
There was hardly anybody. There's like almost nothing good that happened in this episode. So I ended up going with Kim Johnson.
By default.
It's great. Baran won the water. That's huge. So I was going to give it to all of them, and then I remembered that Kim Johnson did the paint to win the immunity challenge. So basically by default, I give it to Kim Johnson.
Well, and she saves herself by doing this.
She would have gone home probably.
Yeah, so I can sign off on Kim as the best player.
Sure.
Worst player, I think, is Silas.
See, I think it's Lindsay.
That's a good point, because she was the one who kind of put a target on her own back by being pretty obnoxious, very standoffish.
She got 4 votes. She was the most standoffish and obnoxious of the young people. She made the friendship bracelets, which we debate about, but I think was a bad move. She gets dehydrated and collapses by working too hard during the immunity challenge, making herself seem weak. She receives 4 votes in the tiebreaker season, and the only reason she's not out of the game is because she guessed right on a true or false question. And Carl didn't.
And I think you could get rid of all the previous reasons and only look at the votes and call her the worst player of the episode.
But add in all that stuff, and I think it's pretty obvious.
Lindsay.
Because she now has the, I believe, same amount of votes as
Clarence.
Yeah, Clarence. Yeah, they're 4-4.
2 highest people so far in the season.
Episode 4, The Young and Untrusted. So Lindsay, Silas, Brandon, and Kim P are all pretty arrogant because they've won the battle. They're going to lose the war, though. But they are so arrogant and just awful.
Never do this. Because
specifically Lindsay on
the game can change so fast.
Lindsay's the worst for sure. But the move here is to try and patch vets. It's like, hey, guys, let's try and regroup here because Baran is going to destroy us when we merge. Let's just try and have a fresh start. I know we've had issues. I feel like we got some tension worked out here. We had this whole craziness. Let's try and start over and legitimately try and come together. Who knows if it'll work?
Tribe.
Who knows if it'll work, but try it. The next thing you try might work. Frank decides to do less work, which is exactly the right move. He's like, okay, I'm going to go with their speed. Nothing's going to get done. That's fine. And then he goes back to his old ways, like the next day. He's like, yeah, I can't let Linda and Teresa suffer anymore. All right, everybody get up. We're going on to get water. The sun's not even up yet, and he gets everybody up. It's like, dude, Frank, not the time for this. Like, you had it right. Just blend, dude.
But at some point in all of this, Linda manages to outshine Frank because they get tree mail that's about their challenge coming up, and she's just like, hey, kids, guess what? We have a challenge in like half an hour, and you're still sleeping. Come on up and add 'em, early birds. And I'm like, Linda, you are chastising grown people who have the majority on you.
Like it or not, they're adults.
This is awful. I'm like, Mom, I'm sending you home. This is bad. Yep. This was probably one of the cringiest moments in the first 3 seasons because she's just like, children, get up. Oh, man.
And you guys didn't wake up so nobody has water, so we don't get any water before the challenge.
Oh, yeah. Telling them the consequences of their actions that they're suffering.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
This is so bad.
Especially in hindsight, because guess who doesn't lose the challenge? They don't.
Oh.
They win.
Yeah. They win the reward challenge. And she's so weird to Lindsay. Like, she tries to give Lindsay a hug, and Lindsay is not into it. You're like, yeah, respect her personal space, Linda. If she doesn't want to hug, she doesn't want to hug.
Is this also the part when she's like, Silas took a knee, so I decided to take a knee into the huddle and be like, all right, everyone, let's be together.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, Silas takes a knee and like does like a football thing, and it is kind of cringy. I'm not gonna lie. It's so surreal because this is a really long scene, and they just there's not much editing, and they just let it play out, and it is so weird and surreal to see the scene go on for this long with this amount of weird behavior. I'm just like, am I watching a David Lynch film or something? What is happening?
It was unsettling.
Yeah.
Or you could feel the tension through the TV because Linda got it exactly right. Silas is a football player, and he takes a knee like he is the quarterback of a football team, and they're about to go into the championship game.
Linda's a nutcase.
She's losing her mind.
But yeah, like you said, Baran ends up losing the reward challenge because of Kim Johnson.
She falls.
Yep, she falls. But afterwards, the tribe does a pretty good job of comforting her, especially Ethan, I think. But I think all of them do a good job. But Ethan takes her off, and they're like, and Kim Johnson knows she's next. And everybody else is like, yeah.
Yeah, you are.
And Kim Johnson's like, yeah, that's the right move, is to take me out next. And I get it. So we'll just have to work together to try and save me. And Ethan's like, yeah, we're going to save you, Kim. And
weird, but yeah.
It's kind of refreshing to have this amount of like candor out on the field. Like, yeah, this is what's going to happen, but hopefully we can stop it.
Yeah, and you don't get that often in modern Survivor.
Absolutely not.
And I agree with you. It's kind of cool. Not all the time, because that would be boring.
Sure.
And a lot of times it's really cringy. A lot of times we would criticize tribes for being so open about who's next. But this is one of those few times where it's like, yeah, this is like twice in a row now.
Well, everyone can kind of get together with like the same motivation then on the tribe. Mm-hmm. If you kind of are all working towards the same, and you're always kind of working towards the same goal of immunity, but just like working together for the goal of saving Kim.
Yeah, because they all like Kim. It's not like they dislike Kim. It's just she's not very good in the challenges.
We're doing this for you.
Yeah.
And honestly, so far in this episode, in episode 4, you can feel the edit drawing this dichotomy between the cultures of these tribes. Mm-hmm. Because you got Samburu who just can't come together for anything. Like, they would see a tribe member just, like, passed out, dying in the dirt, and they wouldn't even stop to spit on him.
Yeah, they let the vultures have them.
Yes.
Like Suhawk.
Yeah. And then you've got this other tribe, they've got 6 people left, and they're like, we don't want to vote out anyone.
Nope. Even Clarence at this point, they don't want to vote him out.
Yeah.
Clarence has made some good progress, I think.
Yeah, he has. So this episode is all about what's going on both of these tribes, and honestly, I think it does a great amount of foreshadowing.
Yep. Makes me love Baran.
Yes.
They're a great tribe. I like Baran tribe a lot. Speaking of Baran, they run into a water buffalo on the way back, which is apparently the most dangerous animal in their area. So they go the long way home.
Yes, the water buffalo, not the lion.
Hey, no, to be fair, I think I don't think that many people get killed by lions. I think water buffaloes are way more dangerous. And maybe hippos don't live in this area because they're the most dangerous one. But Baran ends up winning immunity, sending Samburu back to tribal council. And then we get this insanity. Silas asks the 3 older people to vote for Lindsay just because, hey, let's just put all the votes on one person, and that way, when the tiebreaker comes along, the rest of us have no votes. So put them all on Lindsay, and Lindsay's okay with this. Lindsay's perfectly okay with this. It makes sense. So, yeah, just vote for Lindsay. And then Frank, Linda, and Teresa are like, okay, who are you guys voting for? Well, we're not going to tell you. All right, well, what do we get out of this? Nothing. What? What?
So, honestly, what the move is here, in my opinion, is be honest. You've got the majority. If you're solid on that majority, say, Linda, it's you, Frank, Teresa, we're keeping you guys. It'll be 6v6. We want to try and increase our odds, assuming we can win out. Candor is the right move here.
Yeah, pull Frank and Teresa's side, either together or separately. Tell them the truth. Here's what's going on. We'd love for you to join us.
Because it does no good. If you are that solid in your majority on your tribe and you know who's going home, there's no point in leaving people out because now you're just digging a deeper trench between your sides.
Well, and I think you can do this with much more confidence being in season 3 because there's not the odd variables of idols
exactly
out there. So you can basically say, like, you two, like, let's just come together and basically what we were saying earlier and work together.
And let's talk about the really obvious move here. Bring in Frank and Teresa and have them also vote for Linda. It is in their best interest going forward not to keep everyone in the dark.
You could spin it. Like, yeah, let's get rid of Linda. She was being crazy earlier. You two We don't have as many problems with you. It was Carl and Linda we have mostly the problems with you. That's BS, but you can lie. This is Survivor.
Yeah. And Frank is a straightforward, logical dude. He'd be like, okay, yes, that makes sense. Play on the selfishness. Like, hey, if we get down in the numbers and a split tribe when it comes merge, we all lose.
Yep.
Because history has said we lose. So just tell them. Be honest. Everybody vote for Linda. I'm sure that's why it happens so much on Modern Survivor, is that there is a more clear majority than we're fed as viewers.
Yep.
And everyone's like, okay, it makes sense just to try and get in with the majority.
This is so poorly done by Silas, especially. This is just so bad. So they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So it ends up being 4 votes for Linda, 3 votes for Silas.
And he gets pissed.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Sucks to suck, Silas.
Also, just to note, Jeff Probst teases the swap a little bit here. He's like, yeah, this game is unpredictable. That's the one thing for sure. Is this game is very unpredictable. Bye, guys.
I mean, and he said stuff like that before.
Yeah, but you know.
It's just kind of funny in hindsight.
In hindsight. Best player?
I'm going to say Kim J overall for this episode. Because even though she flubbed the reward challenge, she was one of the integral pieces in winning immunity. And basically, even though she's on the outs on her tribe, she's not on the outs. And from beginning to end, she went from being on the bottom to ultimately not going home because she was able to bring her tribe to victory. So, Kim J for me.
There was so little good gameplay in this episode that I think by default it's Ethan because he did the best job at comforting Kim. It's literally all I have.
I have absolutely no idea. So, I'm going to go with Ethan just because. No, I'm going to go with Kim P, my winner pick.
Okay.
Just because.
For existing.
I don't think we talked about her this episode.
Well, she's on the right side of the votes, I guess.
Yeah.
There you go.
But, I mean, worst player?
Silas.
It's got to be Silas, right?
He's arrogant. He's
Shocker.
lazy. He's trying to get the old folks to vote Lindsay in the worst possible way. He receives 3 votes. It's a train wreck for Silas, my winner pick.
Yeah, bad episode.
Not great.
I mean, I think you could. I mean, Silas is the very easy one. I'm going to also give honorable mentions to the 2 older people for just still, like, staying alienated. They haven't been given a reason to kind of, like, join in with the young people, but they also haven't initiated.
Sure.
And at this point, you should be initiating so that if you do start winning, that you're not just, like, the 2 people on the outside.
I do respect them voting for Silas out of spite, though.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to do something spiteful, that's the way to do it. But if you want to try and win $1 million, you need to try and work your way in.
Yeah, but they're in a tough spot. Episode 5, The Twist.
Dun, dun, dun.
What a great episode. So Lindsay and Silas kind of have a bit of a meltdown about Silas receiving votes. Brandon does a way better job. He's like, no, I get it. It makes sense why you guys did what you did. Like, this is what we needed the whole time, Brandon. Where was this?
Thanks, Brandon.
But yeah, Lindsay and Silas kind of have a bit of a meltdown. It's funny.
It's like, Silas, you made this bed. It's time to lie in it. I have one note. He needs to chill out.
Yeah.
And I have another note. Samburu is just a train wreck to watch at this point.
The first train wreck tribe is great.
It's great, but it's not even fun. But at the same time, it's fun.
It's so fun, especially with what happens next.
I guess because it's not my $1 million on the line, it's fun. If I'm on Samburu and I'm one of the people who are competent, like Kim P, or it seems Teresa, and honestly, next one in line, Frank there.
Yep.
This kind of stinks.
Yep.
Like, this is a tough tribe to be on.
Yeah. But the next day they get mail. 3 people from each tribe need to go to something. So they just randomly pick. And I don't think there's any way to know what's going to happen. So pick whoever. But it ends up being Silas, Frank, and Teresa, Lex, Tom, and Kelly. And it's a tribe swap. And it is so beautiful. This is so funny. Silas's face is just the best. Because he's like, oh, well, there's the game.
He knows that he's so screwed.
He's so done.
Because Silas chose to go with Frank and Teresa, the 2 minority members on their tribe.
Like, it's not over for him yet, but oh boy, it's a bad spot to be
It ain't
in.
over till it's over, but... ugh.
So I had to watch this. So I just like looked it up on YouTube, just like watched like the 2.5-minute video clip of it, and I just watched it through, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome, just because it's the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Nobody
it's
saw
just
it coming.
all 6 of them after like Jeff said like, all right, I will take your buffs basically, and then like threw them on the ground, started, and they still didn't like react really.
They're like,
They're
what?
still kind of confused, and then he like reached into his bag and just like handed them the like clean of the other color.
Here you go.
And they're like, here you go. And they still didn't say anything. It was just like, what?
And I forget, was it Lex, Tom, and
Kelly.
Kelly from the other side?
So what do you guys think? This is the first tribe swap we have Do you guys like the tribe swap?
I love the tribe swaps.
Yeah, me too.
Great television. Man, oh man, as a player, that changes the dynamic.
You have to be... but I think that's a good thing because you get a lot less of stupid gameplay, a la this Samburu tribe alienating 2 people.
Yeah.
And nowadays, for the most part, yes, you still kind of get a little bit of that. But for the most part, you get people making multiple alliances just in case. And I think that helps the game, or at least complicates the game as a whole, because, like Jeff said, you never know what's going to happen next in Survivor.
It highlights the need for a social game.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Because you can make new alliances. Jeff talks about it all the time in Modern Survivor. Will the original tribe hold up, or will these new bonds take root?
Mm-hmm.
Which, when we're thinking back to the greatest social experiment, it's awesome television.
Yeah. It sucks the time, little unfair, but I think it's better for the game.
Great metaphor for life there.
Life isn't always fair. Survivor's not always fair. I love this twist. This is amazing. And this, I think, is an improvement for the game. I don't hate all twists. I've complained about many, many twists in Survivor. They're not all bad by default.
Edge of extinction.
Yep. The worst. But there are good twists, and I like twists that enhance the gameplay, not wreck it. And this is an enhancement of the gameplay.
And whenever a twist is introduced for the first time, it's always unfortunate because it always catches everyone off guard, and there's always a loser.
Yep.
Someone always loses because of a new twist.
Yep.
And looking back at some of these, it makes me a little bit hopeful for some of the newer twists, now that people know what's going on, that maybe people's gameplay will evolve because of it. Maybe just the game of Survivor is going to evolve overall. Very, very, very cautiously optimistic. But I think there is a little bit of optimism to be had, just because if you think about putting yourself into these players' shoes in Season 3 and thinking about what happened in this tribe swap, I think I would have been just as pissed as Edge of Extinction
Yeah.
watching Season 3 if I really liked one of these players and they get screwed over.
Luckily, nobody we like gets screwed over by this. I think that's what helps so much.
Yeah.
So Kelly, Lex, and Tom, they head over to Samburu, and they go in united with a plan. They're going to gather information. They're going to work together. They are ready, and they're going to succeed.
Wow, a functioning tribe doing
my
a
God.
good thing. What?
And they get there, and Lindsay and Kimpy and Brandon are still lazy and still suck.
Yeah, and you had told me while we were watching this, oh, isn't Samburu tribe the worst? And to be honest, when I was going through, and keep in mind, I was fresh on this. I was fresh eyes. The Samburu tribe is dysfunctional, but they're not as bad as Ryan was making it sound like they were. And then all of a sudden, Baran shows up on this tribe, and I'm like, oh, we're going to take a whole 5 minutes to show all the things that Samburu has been doing wrong.
Yep.
And then I basically went up to Ryan after the episode was over, and I'm like, dude, I get it. They're the worst. I'm so sorry for doubting you, but at the same time, how could I have known it was this bad? Because they were talking like they let the ash build up to be like a foot tall. They'd broken most of their water urns. Their fences were weak. They claimed to have stripped the land of firewood, but then they do like a montage shot, and like 2 seconds later, there's this massive pile of firewood that Tom and Lex has built up. I'm just thinking, wow, this is insanity. I did not realize how bad it was.
And just think of like just the ego boost that you'd get, and just being the people coming into that tribe, just like, and we're gonna show you how it really should be done.
But it also sucks. Like, really, we were doing so good. Now we have to come to this piece of crap. Wonderful. I feel bad for Lex, Tom, and Kelly. That sucks.
And they lost their water, too.
Yeah, they lost their water. That sucks.
And then they went to the water thing and
Ooh.
realized that they hadn't dug a hole
so
let their water settle. So like they've literally been drinking mud water.
It's funny.
Like, what are they doing?
Oh, no.
I forgot about all that.
And Tom's like, what are they doing? It's like 2 inches deep. Like, how are they? Well, it was bad.
It was bad.
This is a bad look.
So, on Baran, Frank and Teresa immediately turn on Silas, like, instantly. And it's hilarious.
Surprise Pikachu face.
As they should.
Yes, as they should. And that's exactly the move here. Normally, if you come into a tribe swap, you should try and stay united. But if it's someone you actually can't work with, whatever. Build your new bonds and flip. Just do it.
Because how many people did they join?
It was 3. It was 3-3.
So they could have gone with the whole split thing, but you don't know if Silas is going to do the exact same thing to you. So you go as fast as you can and just
build the bonds with the new people.
Love ya. This guy sucks.
Yeah, let's get rid of Silas.
Okay.
Lindsay gets a tick on her butt, which was foreshadowed, and Lex and Tom help her get it off.
Not her own tribe mates.
Yep.
Because, of course, the irresponsible ones wouldn't be the ones to step up and help the tribe mate with a tick on the butt.
Yeah, I'm
Two
really
foreign guys.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
And then Tom's
a pervert.
He's just like,
Shocker.
oh, that was my dessert or something like that. I was like,
that's Tom. Okay, not cool, man. Lindsay laughed, but yeah, Tom, dude, calm down, man.
I mean, in fairness, we're watching 2001 and 2019 here, but man, oh man,
That wouldn't play well today.
but it's great television.
So Brandon actually comes with a pretty clever plan because he doesn't have any votes. His plan is to draw the votes, so he's gonna not be as nice to the new people
Okay, Colby.
in the hopes to draw the votes. It's the Colby plan, but it's a good plan.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure it's known that it's not original.
Not original, but it's necessary. Got to get the votes off Lindsay, so good call on Brandon's part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clarence bonds with Silas, and I feel like if you're gonna do that, that's fine, but you have to stay checked in with your Ethan and your Kim J here. And he clearly doesn't do that because both of them are kind of suspicious of him. So it's great to bond with the new people, but make sure, like, I'm going to go bond with Silas, guys. Well, and then we can figure out, like, who to vote on next. You got to keep that locked in, not just bond with the new people.
and actually, I'm even gonna go a step further and say that this conversation with Silas makes him in contention for worst player of the episode because he tells Silas that he has 4 votes, and I'm pretty sure Silas tells him that Lindsay has 4 votes, and he's like, okay, cool, so we both have 4 votes. So if it came down to the two of us, I guess it'd be a tie.
It's a quiz.
Yep. So, yeah, it's not great.
I'm like, dude, no, you don't. No, there's a whole subplot going on here about who's gonna give messages to who about who has votes.
Yeah, so that was really bad on Clarence's part, but I think, this is just bad for Clarence all around.
Bad.
Then we have an amazing moment. One of my favorite moments of the season. Ethan decides, and he's a competitor. Ethan is a professional soccer player. He is a competitor. He wants to throw the challenge to get rid of Silas. And he gets Teresa and Kim J on board, and they throw the challenge. This is the first challenge we've ever seen. Throwing the challenge is a very controversial strategy on Survivor. There's a lot of people who say...
Stupid.
False. No.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot of people who say that there's never a reason to throw a challenge and it's a stupid move. I strongly disagree. I think there's plenty of good times. Not all the time. You shouldn't be constantly throwing challenges, but there are opportunities to throw challenges, and I think you should take those opportunities sometimes. I love the challenge throw, and like the top of my bucket list on Survivor besides winning is to successfully pull off a challenge throw to take somebody out of the game because it's one of my favorite moves.
I mean, it's hilarious television when you know what's going on.
Exactly. Like, to bring this back to Mario Party, my favorite video game, I love the mini game throw in Mario Party. There's nothing...
Okay, that is true.
There's nothing more satisfying than a successful mini game throw in Mario Party. It's the same thing with Survivor. If you can pull off a challenge throw, it's risky for sure, and I think there's less opportunity to do it these days with idols. But back in the old days, I think this is great, and I love this move to throw the challenge to get rid of Ethan. Because not only, to get rid of Silas, because you get rid of Silas doing this, but you protect the other 3 because you don't know what's going on. You protect Tom, you protect Lex, you protect Kelly. You have control in your tribe. Why not? Throw it.
And I guess my reasoning is saying, like, no is... I'm not saying that there's never a time. I'm just saying it is extremely low. Like, it's like 1% of the time there's a good reason to throw. You bring out good reasoning. Like, there's much less to lose.
Yep.
In this case.
There are definitely times, places to throw it, I think, or it's where it's fine to throw it.
Especially in modern. Yeah. I think you should almost never do it in modern Survivor.
There's less and less of reason to do it nowadays. It's really risky, but I love this move so much, and it's so funny watching the challenge because Silas is trying so hard, and Ethan and Teresa and Kim, they're just kind of standing around. It's so funny. And people forget that Ethan was the first person to do the challenge throw. Like, this is the first one. Like, it's great. And Silas is trying so hard. It's so funny. Anyway, Tribal Council ends up being 5 votes for Silas, 1 vote for Frank. Because Silas just throws his vote on Frank because he doesn't like Frank. But yeah, 5 votes for Silas. And there goes my winner pick. I don't care because it's glorious. What a great takedown.
Well, knowing that, I mean, I guess you have to give best player to Ethan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan, he makes Frank and Teresa feel welcome. He throws the challenge. He tries to throw Silas's vote on Clarence. Doesn't work, but it's a good attempt. And he gets rid of Silas. Brilliant.
And then, worst player, I would say Lindsay again.
Yeah. She reacts poorly with the Silas votes. She's lazy. She annoys Brandon and the Barons in this episode. She even annoys Brandon.
And, I mean, she did well enough about keeping it a secret that she had votes.
Yeah, because they don't suspect yet.
They don't suspect it yet, but you gotta try and build bridges.
Yeah.
Social game.
Yeah, they think Brandon has votes because he's gay, and they figured Frank wouldn't like him, which is 100% accurate, but, no votes for Brandon. Good read I guess. So we lose Silas.
So Ryan,
Yes, I lose my winner
you
pick.
have a decision to make because you are terrible at Survivor.
Yes, clearly. So yeah, I'm out with Silas, so I got to pick a new winner pick. At this point, nobody on Samburu is worth my time. So it's got to be one of the 5 or the 6 remaining Baron. Here's my thought process. Not Clarence, obviously.
Shocker.
Kim J and Kelly, they just haven't been big enough or been shown enough to pick any of them. So it's really got to be between Ethan, Lex, and Tom are the 3. And Tom has been a fun character. Lex hasn't done a whole lot. Ethan throwing the challenge just made me so happy. And I really like that they did this. So Ethan is my new winner pick because of this challenge throw plan. I think that boosts him above the others, in my opinion.
I think you could use that as like negative foreshadowing though. Like use it as like a reason not to pick him.
I love the challenge throw strategy.
And
it's one of my
it's all your perspective.
favorite strategies, and it works so well here. It's brilliant. So Ethan is my new winner pick. Going into episode 6, the last episode before the merge, I never do it to you. So Brandon continues with his plans to draw the votes, and he's trying to convince Kim P to do it too, but she doesn't really do it. He's like, you're being too nice to him. You gotta be a little meaner to him. So they vote for you or me instead of Lindsay. He's right.
He's right, you know.
He's right enough. But if Brandon's going to do all the work, I like Kim not doing that for her game.
That makes sense. But I think it's more important to make sure Lindsay doesn't get their votes.
Right.
Then we get this hilarious sequence with Clarence because the Baron tribe wins chickens, and Clarence is ready to eat them. And they make a deal. If the chickens lay an egg, they'll get spared for the day. So they lay the tiniest egg, and and then Kim Johnson finds it, leaves it out for Clarence to see when he wakes up the next morning.
And they leave it on the frying pan too, and everyone is just standing around the fire pit waiting for Clarence to get up. And Clarence just kind of meanders over to the fire, and it's a great little funny like hesitation moment because all the music cuts off, and Clarence goes, "Oh hell no!"
And he goes and curses out the chickens.
He goes over to the chickens. "You did this just to spite me. Why?" And then he goes back over. He's like, "We're still killing a chicken tonight."
No. Ethan says it. Ethan's like, "Yeah, we're still gonna eat a chicken. Don't worry." But it was really funny.
It was the funniest part of the pre-merge, honestly.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So then we get something interesting, and we don't actually really see this on screen, but at the reward challenge, Kim Johnson threw up an L symbol, like loser.
We see this.
Did we see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
They put it right up on camera.
Oh, I missed
They
this.
show Kim throwing up an L, and I was like, "Oh damn, Lindsay."
L for Lindsay. And Kelly figures out, yeah, I think she's signaling that Lindsay's got votes. Vote for Lindsay. It's like, why would she call us losers when... That doesn't make sense.
Hey friends, you suck.
You guys are Lindsay.
See, this is exactly what I would do if we were on Blood versus Waters. There's a tribe swap or something like that, or you start on opposite tribes. Who knows? I would just loser you all day.
Oh yeah.
Take the L.
So yeah, this is great from Kim Johnson. She signals them like, yeah, vote Lindsay. She's got votes. Now, since Samburu knows about the nature quiz tiebreaker, their plan is to vote for Tom because they figure he's the worst of the nature quiz. This is really smart, actually. I really like this idea from Brandon. This is pretty clever.
And unfortunately, the only way it works is if they don't vote for Lindsay.
But had this worked, I think Brandon would have won.
Yeah.
'Cause he was studying. He was prepping.
Yeah.
For immunity, they discover it's going to be an archery challenge. Turns out Frank is an archer, so he runs a class.
Surprise!
Not really that surprising, but Frank teaches them all to do archery. What's really funny is during the challenge, Frank doesn't hit a single target, but they win because of Frank's teaching, I think.
Yeah.
A rising tide floats all boats or lifts all boats or whatever the saying is. He taught all the bad people. It doesn't matter how good you are. As long as you teach all the people and you rise up the rest of your team, you're going to win.
Yep.
I felt so badly for Lex, though. He hit like 3 of the targets for the other tribe.
No, I think he got 2, and I think Tom got 1, and I think Lindsay got 1.
That makes sense. I just felt bad because Lex, he hit like on his first 2.
So, Samburu's going to tribal council. Brandon is talking to Kim and Lindsay and speaks a little too loudly. And Kelly overhears the plan that Brandon's drawn the votes. They're like, oh, Brandon doesn't have votes then, so we can't vote for Brandon anymore. Brandon ruins everything by speaking a little too loudly.
Any doubt that was there is now gone.
And he went from basically being the best player of the episode
To
to
the worst player of the episode. Lindsay and Kim consider flipping in on Brandon. And at this point, they should, especially Lindsay. Like, Kim P maybe doesn't matter so much. You know, pick your poison. But Lindsay should flip her vote onto Brandon because she's going home.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get a tie, 3-3, 3 votes for Lindsay, 3 votes for Tom. Revote, deadlock. Lindsay goes out on previous votes. Lindsay should have flipped. She could have saved herself by voting for Brandon. And
making it known to the tribe.
Making it known that, like, hey, I'm going to flip. And if she had told them that, honestly, it would have been smart to be like, yeah, vote for Brandon. Vote Lindsay out anyway. Confuse them a little bit. But Lindsay should have done something.
Now, if you're any of the other 3 people on the revote, do you flip? We're close enough to the merge where I think you can consider it.
Obviously, none of the OG Braun people should flip. I don't think it matters either way at this point. Because she's going to go out on previous votes. It doesn't matter if you flip or not. Mm-hmm. You could. Maybe it'll buy you some goodwill. Maybe it'll make you seem sneaky. At this point, I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Best player?
I'm going to go ahead and agree with your prognosis of Kelly.
Yep.
She deciphered the message, and I think she's also the one who overheard Brandon.
Yep. She was listening. It's easy to walk around and not really listen to what other people saying, but she was clearly listening and maybe inadvertently spying, maybe by accident, maybe on purpose, maybe by accident. But she overheard it and comprehended it and figured it out. And then she also figured out Kim Johnson's message.
Always be listening.
Mm-hmm. Constant vigilance. So yeah, I got to give it to Kelly. Worst, unfortunately, because he started so strongly this episode, is Brandon. Because he had the plan in place. Everything should have worked, and he ruined everything. He shot himself in the foot and shot Lindsay in the face. Talking too loudly, and he got Lindsay voted out. So I think it's Brandon.
Which is some poetic justice, considering that at first it was Frank who was talking too loudly, and that was the reason they were able to draw in Silas to begin with.
Yep.
Man, people, constant vigilance.
Got to whisper.
Head on a swivel. Everywhere. Come on.
Okay, so now we're going into the pre-merge. We have 10 people left in the game. Braun is up 6-4. Going into the merge. Braun is up 6-4. Who do you guys think the best player of the pre-merge is?
To me, it's Lex.
Really? Okay.
Yep, to me, it's Lex. He, from day one, he was able to take a pretty middle position on his tribe, still establish himself as a leader of the tribe, but not an overly zealous leader. No one really had anything bad to say about Lex the entire pre-merge. And he was on the functional tribe. He had water. He's going into the post-merge with the numbers. Everyone likes Lex. I think someone even made that comment in episode 2 or 3. So to me, it's Lex. I guess I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I think it's Ethan, because I think it's a lot of the same things. Everybody likes Ethan, but I think Ethan's been shown to have more, at least so far, have more strategic chops than Lex. Mainly because of my challenge throw. I love that so much. That's a great strategy, and the fact that he's willing to do that tells me Ethan's here to win, even if he's got to lose to win. So I think Ethan's the best player of the pre-merge.
I remember really liking Lex when I watched this season, at this point. Boy, howdy. I think there's so many people that you can just, wipe off.
Yeah.
Right away. Honestly, yeah. I think these are the only two options for the pre-merge.
There's Lex and Ethan.
Yep. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go with Innocent Josh, just going with who he liked the first time he watched. Lex?
Sure.
And honestly, my only rebuttal to you about Ethan showing more strategic chops is we've talked on air before about how pre-merge isn't the time to make big moves. You kind of save, get to the merge and then try and pull some tricks out of your sleeves. Pull the rabbit out of the hat, so to speak. I haven't seen what Lex post-merge is like. I've only seen, in my opinion, him play the best pre-merge game that he could have given the hand he was dealt.
Sure. I think Lex is great, but I was more impressed by Ethan. If we got to pick new winner picks going into the merge, would you pick Lex?
Yeah. I think I have absolutely no reason to go against him. I went back and forth, and I was talking with you. I remember, is Lex too easy of a pick? Because there's something in the back of my mind that says that he will not win this. I don't know what it is. It's just this itching feeling. But I've got no reason not to pick Lex. He seems to have a good social game. He's in the majority tribe. Everyone likes him. Everyone respects him. He's not a huge physical threat, but he's enough of a threat in individual immunity to win him every now and again. Lex.
I actually think it would also be Lex, and I'll make an extra point to that because Derek actually hit on basically everything. I think he does have a better social game, and if we're going to go back to our two guys that we're looking most fondly at being him and Ethan, I think he has a better social game than Ethan for what we're shown.
Sure. I'm going to go with Ethan. Ethan's would be my pick going into the merge for everything I've already stated. Throwing challenges, man. I love it. So worst player of the pre-merge. This is tricky because out of the 6 people who've gone home, 5 of those 6, I'm going to throw out Jessie just because she just got sick. I think the 5 worst players in the game have all gone home. Diane, Linda, Carl, Silas, and Lindsay, I think, were the 5 worst players of the season. They're gone. So there isn't a clear front runner for worst player of the season. I think the worst move that anybody has made in terms of gameplay is Brandon at this point, because he kind of shot himself in the foot. He has some strategic chops, but he's terrible socially, and he's not the most aware person. So I think Brandon's the worst player left, but honestly, there's a bunch of names you could throw
And it's
out.
kind of weird picking a worst player out of people who are still there.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, like, worst player of the entire pre-merge, but it's...
Everybody who's still left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I'm going to go ahead and say the guy who missed the whole shot is the one who's the worst in the pre-merge. It's Clarence.
Okay.
You know, you dug yourself...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You dug yourself a really big hole to start off, and yeah, you were able to work your way out of it. You know, you didn't keep digging.
Yeah.
But you've already got 4 votes. Frank and Teresa already know this. You are the next one out of Baran after Samburu has been, you know, picked off one by one, assuming it goes that way, and there's no guarantee it will. To me, it's Clarence.
Yeah, I think that's a fair pick.
I would agree, and actually, I don't think it's close.
Okay.
Because even if you do think that he kind of, like, mended relationships, because of how poorly he started out, he's always going to be at the bottom of that tribe.
You know what? I think you guys have convinced me. I'm going to go ahead and change my pick to Clarence. You guys
I
convinced
did
me.
it!
We did it, Derek!
So
yeah!
I'll sign off. Clarence is the worst player of the pre-merge. He definitely got some redemption, and I don't think he's like... Yeah, he's definitely the worst, but I don't think it's as bad as, like, say, like if a Silas or Lindsay was still in the game.
Yeah, if Silas would have somehow sneaked through, or if we were able to nominate people who were voted out, I think Silas would be the vote.
Yeah, like I said, I think those, not Jesse notwithstanding, the other 5 are all worse players than Clarence. But they're all gone.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts you guys want to talk about going into the merge or on the season so far?
No, I'm enjoying it so far. I just want to reiterate, I don't think this is must-watch Survivor. I know we already touched on it, and maybe us talking about it has convinced you that you do want to watch it. There are definitely great moments. There are some high highs, but for the most part, to me, that's just a lot of flat ground. It's much like the African plains. It's, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with Derek. I'm excited for him to watch the second half of the season, but we'll agree that there's only these few moments, and even just talking it back from kind of the memory angle, my perspective being the twist, the tribe swap, and just the environment, so like the lions, or throwing the challenge, like that. Now being reminded of it, that's memorable, but that's only like 3 things that you could just go look up on YouTube.
Sure.
I still say, like, you should watch all seasons, but
If you can't,
yeah.
you guys say skip this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still going to disagree. I think this is some
That's
key
fine.
how not to play Survivor right here. Derek, weather report.
There ain't been no rain. We have had lions outside the camp. They were bumped into a water buffalo, but let me tell you what, I think they would be happy for some rain. And this is the only season of all of them that I've seen, modern and classic, where I can say this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So nothing to report on weather. Easily the easiest season in that regard
In terms of
so
rain.
far. But
They don't have any water.
the flip side is they are miserably thirsty, at least the tribe that didn't win the 100 gallons of drinking water.
Sure.
So I can't necessarily say it was the easiest, but in terms of weather, it has been.
Yeah, it's just hot out. Yeah, if we were going to be on Survivor Africa, we're going to go back in time here, do all your work early in the day, and then spend the middle of the day, the hot parts of the day, sitting in the shade.
Absolutely. Frank had it right. Get up before the sun comes out, gather your firewood, get your water. He's playing the game the correct way.
Yeah, and like going back, I know he didn't handle it the best way, but I think Frank was right about everything, survival-wise. I would have been on Team Frank this whole time, like, yeah, let's get up early, let's do this stuff. Frank is right, and I would be with the old people on this one. So
You'd be the Silas that actually flipped.
yeah, I would be the Silas that went with them, 100%.
Oh, and also Frank has the best quote of the pre-merge, which is, "Oh, Frank, which branch of the military did you serve in?" "The America branch. It's called Freedom." I'm like, Frank,
What?
Frank,
Okay.
he's asking you a question. He's trying to build bonds. Don't, no.
Don't do this, Frank.
America.
Love Frank.
Classic example of even if you are right about everything, if you're poor at communicating, nobody cares.
Gotta have the social game. Yeah, I love Frank. But yeah, so the next episode we'll be going through the entirety of the post-merge and who wins. We'll see if Derek and Josh's winner pick of Kim Powers can pull it off. And yeah, I'm
yeah, so I
excited.
mean, if we intrigued you enough about this episode that you want to maybe start at the merge and watch the second half, go for it, and then tune into our part 2 of this season.
But if not, we'll let you know whether it's worth your time or not next time. All right.
We are the Castaway Consultants, and thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
That'll be $100 per hour. All right. Bye.